Hello everyone, my name is QJ Wong. I am the lead of Asia business at MakerDAO. MakerDAO is one of the oldest decentralized autonomous organizations on Ethereum. What we do is we create a platform to create a token that is called Dai, but is stable for people to use. Now Dai is softly pegged to $1. You can create Dai by going to MakerDAO platform and put assets on Ethereum into the smart contract and take some Dais out for any usage and for any decentralized applications or businesses in the real world. So I'm here to introduce a product called MakerDAO. DAO refers to decentralized autonomous organization, which means it's like a very open, no access limits organization for everybody to participate. The good thing about you guys coming today for with all your sacrifice is that you're going to take home with a very powerful tool of yours, so that your time and your investment in a blockchain sphere will be even more, let's say, empowered by this tool, which is something that we are working on for a very long time. So that's why I'm introducing Maker, which is the team's name and also the product name, and the Dai is our essential product that you're going to use. And I saw that there were a few hands who showed that you already know about this project, and then I will just dive into it. So the simple thing that the Maker team is trying to solve is why hasn't cryptocurrency been used as currency yet? Can I have a show of hands of how many people here have actually got Bitcoin? Okay, a lot. And comparatively, before there was no show at all, in 2014. But how many people actually use Bitcoin to pay for a product or a service? I saw in Biku Kamela, you can actually buy with Bitcoin stuff. I've never tried. Maybe you need to pay a lot of tax or transaction fees. But have anybody heard of even somebody who's paying with Bitcoin? Or you guys don't want me to? As a developer, I guess you buy a VPN service or something. Or you guys don't want me to ask, what did you actually buy on Silk Road or something? Never heard. Okay, so with obvious reasons that when you do Bitcoin transactions, the transaction fee is very high these days, which is so much different from several years ago when we were selling that you guys can do international payment and with very little fee as opposed to using Swift and stuff. Another big reason is volatility. As somebody who wants to, for example, buy a nice bag, if I sell my Bitcoin and tomorrow the price just come back, even rise more, I would regret so much. As somebody who's running a coffee shop or tea shop, you don't want to receive Bitcoin because tomorrow the price drops. And how do you do your accounting? How do you pay your tax? It's going to be very difficult. So that's just an easy show of the volatility of the market for the major two tokens that are being used close to the idea of a currency, which is Ether and Bitcoin. As you can see, it's nearly impossible to use. And being an advisor and Asia lead of the business of MakerDAO, my salary is paid in Ether at the beginning. And every time, also back in 2014 when I was in blockchain.info, which is the world's largest wallet back then, I'm not sure about today, it was paid in Bitcoin. So every time at the end of the month when I need to convert it into CNY, the price always drops. So I consider myself the opposite trade index. Whenever I want to buy, it goes down. Whenever I want to sell, it goes up. So apparently I'm not a good trader in that sense. The problem is volatility. So what is Maker? Maker, in short sentence, is a platform for stability. Our product is one thing. It's called Dai. It's this token. This is a product that is produced on a platform that is permissionless and transparent. What does that mean? Permissionless means for anybody who wants to use Dai, you don't need any permission from a bank, for example, or as long as you have internet and then you have your wallet that holds certain assets, you'll be able to use it. And it's like a robot that is just on the internet, so you don't need to ask whether the server wants you or not. Like if you're using in China Alibaba or or the other, like PayPal, you need to register and stuff. There's no such permission required. And transparent means it's something guaranteed by blockchain, right? Because we don't want money that can be inflated infinitely by any centralized institution. In a case of a central bank, in a case of USDT, of course, there's a lot of guarantee that they want, but it's still operated by one entity, which is risky in many other ways, and also very easy to use for now, but there are other problems. Being on blockchain guarantees that each of the DAI token that is produced on the platform can be traced, like how did it come from? And the total supply can be checked on places like the explorers of blockchain, like Etherscan, and even on MakerDAO.com itself, there are explorers that you can view the supply of DAI. So one thing that you can take home is that DAI is now softly pegged to US dollar, which means you can hold DAI in your any simple wallet of Ethereum, and then you can send it to anywhere, anybody who has a wallet to receive. And this is a stable coin, which means from now on, which I already started like a month ago, I would receive DAI as my salary as opposed to Ether, especially in perspective of the crash market these days, right? And the good thing about this market is that this MakerDAO platform it has very, very low interest rate when you borrow, which is only 0.5%. What does that mean? So DAI is, I just introduced this product of a stable coin, a US dollar pegged stable coin as a product. But how does it come around? Like how do you produce it, right? When you go to blockchain, you will be able to see that each DAI is an asset-backed currency. What does it mean? It means currency on blockchain is going back to the era of gold-backed era. So if you don't have any assets behind this currency, you won't be able to have this on the front. Underneath it, for now, there is Ether. So if you put Ether into MakerDAO smart contract, you can generate DAI. And we already announced a cooperation with Digix, the gold. So if you guys are familiar with it, it's a platform that allows gold to be stored and then generates tokens on gold. It's another, let's say, version of a stable coin when you consider gold as the ultimate like stable asset in the world. But at the same time, MakerDAO is using it as one of the collaterals behind DAI, which would make it more stable. Because if you look at the market, cryptocurrency's price, because of lack of like really related to the hard assets and real assets, real estate, for example, in the world, it's still very correlated when the price drops. When one major token drops, for an example of Bitcoin or Ether. So in the future, there will also be fiat currencies. I heard Mitsubishi Bank is trying to issue their own Japanese yen on blockchain, and you can also have real estate. In the example of supply chain, you can also have receivables and collectibles and put them underneath DAI and make it an asset-backed currency. So exactly how does DAI come out? And what if I want to use DAI? Where can I get it? If you go to MakerDAO.com and ignore all these very termy sort of things, it's essentially a smart contract that is created on MakerDAO.com. And then if you have Ether, especially these days, the price is so low, but you're thinking, oh my God, this price is so low, I want to buy in more, I want to hire my position with Ether, but I don't have money anymore. What do? I don't think Ether can go any longer, and this is not investment advice, as you guys have already heard my experience with trading. So if you think so, and you don't have any other liquidity at hand, what can you do? You can put Ether into the smart contract, and it's locked by MakerDAO, the smart contract platform, and then you generate a certain amount of DAI. In today's case, it's 2/3. So in the example of like you put 300 yen of worth of Ether into the smart contract, you can get at most 200 yen of DAI out. And your Ether is still there, nobody can touch it. But with that 200 yen of Dai, you can use it in like buying new tokens that you want to get involved with. You can also use it to buy more Ether or even buy more Bitcoin if you think it's like more worth investing in this point. And then, if your investment goes well, then you get more Dai, right? You get more value on your account book. What do you do to get your Ether back when it comes back in price? So you go to your smart contract again, and then you pay back the Dai that you borrow, right? And then you pay a small proportion. If you remember, there's a little R that I said, which is an interest rate, which is 0.5%, and that's the money that you need to pay back the stability fee as the platform very well providing this stability borrowing sort of service for you guys. You pay back Maker, which is another token. It's a little bit confusing, but it will automatically be done in the system, so nobody needs to worry about it. And then you get your smart contract unlocked, and then you get your Ether back. So if Ether goes up at this point, and your investment is very good, you actually get more back and down, which is something everybody can use today. So this project started out 3 years ago. Actually, on 28th, which is tomorrow, MakerDAO would mark its 3rd year anniversary. So it was started even before Ethereum came around. I mean, the idea of it was developed and designed by a lot of people, including Vitalik, because if there is a stable coin, like all the 2 previous projects that you guys have heard of, everybody would benefit from it because then you have an accounting unit you can use at the end of the day. Like how much did you really earn with your gambling? I don't know, 2 Bitcoins. And how much of that is sort of dropped in price. So I don't think I earned like more than I started the gambling. Or in the case of decentralized exchanges, when you started to want to sell tokens, right? What would you want to sell it to? Bitcoin, and then you sell to Ether. Ether also drops. What do? You want a stable coin that is on the blockchain, that is trustworthy to sell it into, and you can actually withdraw from the blockchain when you want to keep it to yourself or from your wife's. Not recommended, but so as your pocket money or something. So it's actually very similar to the idea of mortgage. So you go to the bank, but you need a lot of like compliance and all the other like paperwork, and then you put your house in it, but the bank would not give you more than the house is worth, and even like much less than it, because when they need to liquidate the asset, they would have to count in the friction and also in case when the whole market crashes. So you actually have, going back into it. And this idea I already actually introduced, which is you can use it for margin trading to get out more money and then invest in other tokens if you want with MakerDAO. In the case of a liquidation, it happens. So how come it's just all good things? Well, what if the market really crashes? So that's what I'm trying to explain here. So say you put Ether into a smart contract and you took out money. And then the price of Ether drops. So what the platform would do is when it reaches to the liquidation rate, so you get so much of the Dai out, the US dollar out, and the Ether price drops below that rate, it would be something called a margin call, which is when the asset behind the Dai is not enough to back all the stable currency out there. The platform would automatically call for people to buy the assets back. So if you go to the market of MakerDAO these days, it happened many times during the past weeks when price of Ether dropped, that there are bad assets, like bad debts on the platform. People can actually buy the bad assets, not really bad because it's very easy to sell, and with Ether you can do a lot of things. But then with a very, very cheaper price, you can buy back the debts with Dai. So that's how Dai is recycled, and all the supply in the market is guaranteed to have assets behind, as opposed to just like credit out there, and you can inflate anytime you want. So that's what I explained. And in the case of extreme black swan event, MakerDAO actually has like further steps to make sure the stablecoin is very stable over time, which is the people that are holding Maker token, which is, I said, the second token that is involved in the market. But if you don't want to be involved in governing this decentralized autonomous organization, you don't even need to have a Maker token. But if you want to become a part of this, like a World Bank sort of platform, you will have to do a lot of things, including introducing new collaterals, including determining what should be the best debt rate or liquidation rate, and this would all be done through a very open voting system that is being developed this day. So coming back to this big crash of the market, even though we have experienced like several ever since last year in summer when the first version of a simple Dai that is launched, Maker platform has been able to maintain the stability of Dai very well. So only in a case of 70% instant crash in the price of the collaterals, Maker holders would have to suffer from this bad management, right? Their Maker would be inflated in order to go to the market to buy back the Dais to sustain the stability of it. That's why Maker token itself is not such a token for new blockchainers to hold, because of the idea of you need to participate for certain obligations. At the same time, you also need to suffer from your bad doing or malperformance in the whole participation of it. This is a Dai dashboard. If you go to dai.makerdao.com, you can instantly put your Ether into it and start to do margin trading and other stuff. So the performance of Dai during the recent crash is like this. And we've seen a 14% crash for the total market valuation, but Dai is still very stable and being introduced to many decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges as their stable coin and replacing all the other more controversial and risky stable coins. The roadmap and vision is that, so you guys would ask, if I only put Ether as a collateral, it will be very dangerous, right? Because if Ethereum doesn't go very well, then my Dai is going to be unstable, and my Maker is going to be also in danger. The long-term idea, at least, so I'm going to introduce for the very recent plan, is in summer we're going to launch multi-collateral platform, which means not only Ether, all the other ERC20 tokens will be easily put into as collaterals. So all the other tokens, Gnosis tokens, and these other decentralized tokens can also be put into it and then take out Dais that you can use any way you want. And there will be a lot of ecosystem partners that come out. Stuff like OTCmaker.com, which would help people, easy users, like starter users to get that very easily, like how you trade on local Bitcoin.com, local Ethereum.com. And of course, we would have to also choose the collaterals that have very low volatility in long term. So as I explained, DIGIX and all the other tokens that might be more related to hard assets in the real world are very welcome, and we have been doing that business development for a very long time, ever since last year. There are lending platforms, contracts that can be put onto it, and so a little bit difficult to understand that is these tokens, these assets will not be so fungible, like one Ether is equal to any other Ether. It's more like CryptoKitty, like this weird kitty is not so much like the other box kitty, but they are all worth of something. So these can also all be put, yes, kitty can also be put as collateral if you want to get money for marrying your kitty with a new kitty that you want to buy, right? And in the long term, we want to go beyond just in blockchain and in one fiat currency ecosystem. And this is an ambitious goal that we have already established 3 years ago, which is we don't want Dai to become just a tagged token on blockchain for US dollar, for one economy. What if their economy crashes again, or all the other economies? In the future, when governments can also borrow Dai with their own currencies and bonds, DAI would be overall crossing the borders and boundaries and different ecosystems and real world and virtual world and blockchain world to become an ultimate token, ultimate coin that will be the measuring unit for all other economies that are easily done on blockchain and in other systems. So that's a very long-term goal, but we believe it will happen very soon. With all these fantastic projects doing their things on Ethereum, I've seen patents being registered on Ethereum. They can also be as an asset. So people who actually hold Maker are people who are running this World Bank, and it's sort of a burden for such young people and non-financial people to become a World Bank shareholder, but it's also very, very exciting to think that your decision would ultimately influence how the system works, and actually you're in control of the economy that will become more stable over time because all kinds of assets will be there. But at the same time, for easy use for different jurisdictions and economies, there will still be the second layer of like Dai US dollar and Dai yen, Dai CNY, Dai euro sort of thing. But the end goal here, the end game is an ultimate world stablecoin. Of course, as I explained, Maker holders will be the people who are running this platform. So it will be the ultimate resort for when the system is not coming out very great. In the case of, we will be managing risks, there will be, if DAI crashes or there's like malicious behavior in the market to temper the platform, there will be financial bailouts. We have saved up enough, and Maker has risen very much in price over the past 3 years, that we have enough reserve. When it happens, it will be guaranteed that the market is stable and we still have enough fund to go on with the development. Then there's plus side. Otherwise, why would you just do this volunteer work, right? So that part of 0.5% of Maker stability fee that people are paying to the system going to benefit and become the dividends of the people who are holding Makers. That's the idea, and that's how it's being done. So supply of Maker over time, when people start to burn and by paying those fees, will go lower and lower. In the end, there will be much less than at the beginning of the Makers. That's why it's like it's even 30% more higher in price in the Ether's price. But we have never really encouraged everybody to purchase that like super expensive token at this point. It's more that the product that we can start to use. So a simple recap is that for the stability of the token of DAI, we have the CDP, which is just a smart contract that has assets behind the DAI. And also we have the people that are running Maker also have the reserves that will guarantee the parameter management, and also will become the second layer of that insurance when things go worse. So now it comes to, well, like how does it really influence us? Apart from the several cases that I introduced, there will be, here's some Chinese there, of course, remittance that we can use when you send money to your friends and family at home, or in the future, the promise that I started to give out when I started this Bitcoin and blockchain journey of my own, that I've been telling people, you can receive Bitcoin, it's much easier and stuff, and people are like, how do I really account? This dream is really coming true, and that's why I'm so excited about it. At the same time, you can use it to do leverage trading, as I explained. So in a real case, one friend of ours in the community wanted to buy a nice car, and he earned a lot from the past year. But at the same time, he thinks Ether is going very well, so he doesn't want to really sell his Ether. The idea and what he executed is he put his Ether into the smart contract, and he got the token of DAI, and then he went to buy some Porsche. So when the price comes back and he can pay back, and his Ether is still there. That's the nice idea. Of course, if you guys are familiar with Vitalik's articles, a few weeks ago, I think, he proposed and published another article about ICOs. If you guys are familiar with the idea, it's when a project on blockchain or related to blockchain come out, they raise funds not by going to traditional VCs, bickering about like how is it going well and what's their business model, and explain, teaching them all about blockchains. They just come out with a white paper and start to raise money from the ecosystem and from the community. But what happened was that a lot of scammy projects come around. So they take the money and they never like started on their project, or even if they started to spend it on business classes, first classes, and flying around in like 5-star hotels. And start to like stop disclosing what they are doing, and even updating on GitHub their code. So what Vitalik proposed was that if everybody starts to use a smart contract and give more power to the community to see whether this project is really working on it. So every month, for example, every month you can start a vote and to see whether they there's enough communication and disclosure of how the progress of the project. If it's going good, you can give them more discretion on using the fund that is locked down in the smart contract. If it's not going so good, you can size down until eventually probably withdraw all the money that's still in the reserve. That's the idea. But on the other side, so it seems like it's just a smart contract. On the other side is that if it's Ether inside or all the other tokens inside, what if the tokens are going very, very low in price? The community will be incentivized to vote to get the money back instead of like really supporting the commitment that they made when they donated the money to the project. But if you're using Dai, which is a stable coin, it's less likely to happen, because in a case of that, you can there's no incentive to get like a stable coin that you are using as a unit to count for how much investment you have made. So MakerDAO these days have been very active in boosting the whole ecosystem, because essentially what we do is a platform that helps every other decentralized applications and every user that wants to use cryptocurrency for its easy usage across nations and all the other benefits. We have formed with a company called L4 a stable fund with $45 million US. So anybody who is interested in developing a project that is based on Dai, that is based on becoming a collateral of the MakerDAO platform, would be benefited from this fund. We are aggressively investing in these projects. So this is where you guys can find us. It's MakerDAO.com. You can also, we have a very, very open chat like Slack, but it's our own. It's chat on MakerDAO.com. Every week there is a weekly meeting. Like anybody can enjoy, and anybody can come and ask any questions you want. We have disclosed all the money that we spent for the past 3 years, like every week, how much we're paying the developers, how much we're paying for certain services, and Reddit and Twitter. And we are expanding in Asian area, and that's why I'm here. We are also setting up offices in Tokyo, in Singapore, in Taipei, and in Seoul. We are looking for people who can educate the market very well, who can do technical support for the partners who want to develop things based on blockchain collaterals and stuff. At the same time, we would also want people to also actively, regularly communicate with the community. So if you guys are interested, this was a presentation that we have done in Singapore, so there is some Chinese, and it's a WeChat public account. We are going to also set up a Line public account, official account soon. It would be very much appreciated if we can use your help. We are doing this is a T-shirt I cannot bring because it's being printed. It's cool because it says I'm not stable, but my Dai is. So it's a very nice thing to wear around, especially if you're clubbing tonight and stuff. We are coming back, I think, on 10th or 15th, I'm not super sure, in April. So at that time, we'll be able to bring all the T-shirts to Tokyo. And if you're interested, you can kind of just contact us. Like if you're really eager to get it very soon, you can also contact me. This is my email. So as I said, this is our 3-year anniversary campaign. And the date of today is not new because it was sort of just rearranged with very short notice. We've been in Seoul, Shanghai, Singapore, and we're coming back up. So this is 15th at Tokyo. And then we go to Seoul, Shanghai, Taipei, and we go to Singapore. So it will be telling people what they can use MakerDAO for, and it's a very powerful tool. So if you have any questions, you can also ask me now, and you can also sort of go to the chat and also any supporting channels. There will be a makertalk.org that is targeting Asian area, with different languages and also Japanese materials and Telegram channels and stuff. We will keep updated in our official channels. So I hope I have made the case very clear, and if there's any question, I'd like to invite you. Yes, please.
Just quickly, you said the exit fee is 0.5%. Do you mean 5 basis points, 0.5%, or 5%?
Sorry again?
You said the exit fee when you want to repossess your, when you want to pull your DAI out.
Yes. It's 0.5%
So is that
annually.
0.5? So it's 5 basis points, 5%. Because if you're looking at a decimal point versus a percentage.
Yeah. It's like 5 out of 1,000.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
5
yeah.
basis.
Yes. Out of 1,000. So and annually, so for a year, it's much significantly lower than say if you want to borrow from credit cards and from
right.